Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over the water to Fyn in Denmark once again, and we're going to revisit Indslev Bryggeri, who, as many of you might know, are a specialist wheat beer brewery, the only specialist wheat beer brewery in Denmark in fact. So we're going to have a look at their kind of original wheat beer today. This one is the Svane Hvede, in English literally the swan wheat, and this is a straight up Hefeweizen. It comes in, I think it was at 4.9%, so it should be really nice. I've enjoyed the hybrid wheat beers that I've tried from these guys so far, so it's cool to finally kind of try the original one. And a big thank you to Mike and Anders for sending me these beers once again. I've had a second shipment from Indslev Bryggeri, so I hope you guys continue to enjoy the reviews, and thank you for supporting the channel. But anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you do want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other Indslev reviews I've done for you before, and also the Ugly Duck ones as well. There's all the usual social media. Make sure you check that out. If you want to see more beer reviews, do subscribe to the channel. And as always, to those of you watching in Denmark, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review from Denmark. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Indslev Bryggeri. So these guys are based in Nørre Aaby near Middelfart on the island of Fyn in Denmark. Fyn, of course, is the kind of middle part of Denmark. You have Jutland, which is the mainland part, then Sjælland in the east, which is where Copenhagen is, and Fyn in the middle, and Nørre Aaby is in the northwestern part of Fyn. So the Indslev Bryggeri has roots that trace back to the year 1897, but they reopened as a modern brewery in 2006, and since 2012 they've also been brewing their Ugly Duck beers as well, which are the more American style craft beers. As I mentioned, these guys are a specialist wheat beer brewery, and they're the only brewery to actually do this in Denmark to date. But their desire to brew different beers, really the American style beers, was what made them found the Ugly Duck company as well. But the brewery is owned by Anders Rasmussen, and it was his grandfather Frederick that actually built the brewery back in 1897. They still brew in the original building, and you can say that this is one of the Scandinavian farmhouse breweries. There's quite a few of them actually here in Sweden as well that are like that, and there's more of them in Denmark too. So they're an interesting brewery. The two brewers at the brewery are Stefan Peter Stadler, who's German, and he graduated as a brewer from Hofbräu. He's worked in various German and Danish breweries, and they also have Torben Steenholt, who previously worked for Velje and Brockhaus. And the brewery building has been modernised, and they've got a brew kit from Kasper Schultz in Bamberg in Germany. Bamberg, of course, a bit of a holy grail when it comes to German beer. But these guys produce some really nice beers. If you enjoy the American style things, go for the Ugly Duck range, but if you like the wheat beers, I would say check out some of the Indslev ones. I really enjoyed the Sort Hvede and the Hvede IPA in particular. The hybrid beers that they do are really quite nice. They've got a trademark smoothness to them. But just to list the other beers you can get in the Indslev range, there's the Sort Hvede, which is a kind of wheat stout beer. There's Svane Hvede, which is this guy here, Speltbock, Pauske Hvede, Jule Hvede, Hvede IPA, which is another really nice one. The Hvede, which is a special white wheat beer. The Hvede Bock, which is a Weizen Bock, that's nice as well. There's the Frederiks Pauste, Mork Hvede, and Fredrik Jule, and also the Frokost lunch beer as well. So there's quite a few different varieties of wheat beer you can try from these guys. So as I say, if you're into this style, then you really should check out some of the Indslev beers. But yeah, I'll just bring up the camera and let you have a little look at the artwork on this one before we open it up. Comes in at 4.9%. And it should be really nice. There you can see the typical Indslev Bryggeri art. They're usually all the same as this, but just different colours depending on the beer. You can see the swan up there as well. As I say, Svane in Danish is swan. Plain bottle cap on this one. It would actually be quite cool if they got a black one and put the silver swan on it there. That would be quite nice. But it says Family Traditioner i Indslev Siden 1897. So yeah, it should be nice. Best before the 24th of February 2017. So it's well in date. But let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. So as you can see, a nice smoky opening on this beer, and we'll get it out and into the glass. You can smell that. You can smell the nice banana notes off this one already as you pour it out. But it said on the website this one was supposed to be a kind of tribute, if you like, and I guess when this is their original beer, this one's meant to be a tribute to the Bavarian Hefeweizen, so it should be really interesting. And I've always found that these Indslev beers have a really trademark smoothness to them. They are quite different in the feel from the German beers, and they're kind of different in the flavour too, but they're good within their own right. And they're actually really nice even when you compare them to the German ones as well, I would say. They're very smooth and very drinkable, which is something I always found Hefeweizens can be really quite heavy. But as you can see, this beer is poured exactly how you would expect a Hefeweizen to. That nice, bright, yellowy orange colour. You can see, if I put my fingers behind it, it is quite opaque in colour. There was about a quarter finger of a frothy white head, and that's faded away. There's just a kind of ring around the edge now. There's some big bubbles on the side of the glass, and a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head. One or two little bits of sediment in the bottom of the glass too, but overall it looks really, really quite nice. So yeah, we can have a look at the aroma, and it smells exactly as you would expect. I've just dropped a little bit, but it smells exactly as you would expect. You know, you've got a nice smooth wheat base in this one, a bit of doughy, yeasty character, some banana in there. You can smell a little bit of almost coriander coming out of this one, but you've got the wheaty malt base, a little bit of that kind of clovey and peppery spice in there. It does smell quite sweet though. It's quite yeasty and doughy, and a little bit of that banana in there as well. It does smell nice. There's some grassy and slightly floral hop in the beer too, a little bit of citrus. It has everything you'd expect. The hops are actually quite subdued. It really is a more malt forward beer, this one, which is kind of what you would expect, to be honest. But yeah, take a little bit of time and smell the aroma of this one before you give it a try. It's nowhere near as complex as the other ones, and when it's a straight up wheat beer as opposed to one of these wheat beer hybrids, that's exactly what you would expect. But you usually get quite nice sweet aromas from these Indslev beers as well. So yeah, just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma before you give it a try. I'd say it's more sweet and malty when you let it settle, and then when you sugar it up a bit more, you start to get some of the hoppy characters coming out of the beer. The grassy and kind of slightly floral character that comes out of the beer is more noticeable when it's moving around a little bit. Yeah, I'll definitely say that. There's just a little touch of citrus in this one too. But yeah, let's have a go with this beer now. So this is the Svane Hvede, the Hefeweizen beer at 4.9% from Indslev Bryggeri on Fyn, Nørre Aaby in Denmark. Skål! That's nice, yeah. It's certainly, that's one of the things, it's certainly not as complex as the other ones I've had from these guys. And like I say, it is their original beer. And that was the thing. This is nice, and as I mentioned when I tried the other ones, especially the Hvede IPA, the thing that always put me off wheat beers a little bit, and I did enjoy the flavours, but I couldn't really drink them or session them in the way that the actual Germans did, because they're usually quite heavy. And what Indslev Bryggeri have achieved with these wheat beers is that they've made them lighter and quite sessionable. So it's almost like you have a German flavoured beer, but then you've got a bit more of the American kind of sessionable mouthfeel, I would say. But yeah, definitely a nice beer, no doubt about that. Let's get the last of it into the glass. But yeah, you'll notice that with this one. The mouthfeel on this one is even lighter than some of the other beers I've tried from these guys. It is really light and quite drinkable, this one. You could sit and session this, no problem. But in terms of the flavour in this beer, you're at the middle of your palate, as you would expect, is just blanketed with this kind of bready and doughy, yeasty character. On top of that, you start to get some of the kind of wheat character. You get that nice smooth and sweet wheat. The banana's there as well. You can taste the little bit of banana flavour, a sweet banana flavour right in the middle of the palate. I want to say there is a bit of the kind of coriander flavour in there too. There's a really interesting kind of sweetness to the middle of this beer. Yeah, that's nice. That I have to admit, I quite enjoy that. The clovey and peppery spice that I was picking up in the aroma doesn't come out so much in the flavour, I would say. It's more of a sweet malt base, as I say, bready character, some doughy kind of yeasty flavours in there, quite sweet. Then you've got the banana coming out, and that wheat, that smooth wheat character in this one. Yeah, that trademark wheat smoothness in this one that comes with Indslev Bryggeri, although I would say there is a little bit more carbonation in this one than I've had in some of the other beers. Maybe it's a little bit fresher than the other ones or something like that, but for me the carbonation is a little bit more prominent in this one than the others. But yeah, definite thing to take away from this beer. Very light, very sessionable wheat beer, but it's got a good bit of flavour in it, this one. I have to admit, I do quite like it. Does it replace? The question is, does it replace the Hvede IPA, or the Sort Hvede is my favourite from these guys? Probably not, but it's a good beer within its own right. As I always say, beer is subjective and people enjoy different things. For me, the best beers I've had from these guys are the Hvede IPA and the Sort Hvede, but it's always really cool to kind of try the original ones. And this is a really good wheat beer, there's no doubt about that. And what I like about this is that it's light and it's sessionable in comparison to some of the German ones, which I've always found kind of quite heavy. I do like to drink one of them and taste them, but beyond that, I'm always really full. But yeah, to complement that malt base, you've got the nice floral and grassy characters coming out. At the front curve of the tongue there, at the front sides of the tongue, you've got a bit of the floral character, and it smooths out and becomes a bit more grassy around the front side of the palate, and then you get this little oily bubble in there, and that's where some of the kind of citrusy character comes out. There's a little bit of a slightly lemony citrus, and it complements the sweet flavours in the malt base really well actually. This is a good beer, I have to admit I've enjoyed this one. Yeah, the floral grassy character, the hops complement the malt base really nicely in this one, and I can see why these beers have sold quite well since they've appeared in Denmark, and it's really cool to see a brewery outside of Germany specialising in these wheat beers. Really nice actually, so make sure you give this one a go. If you want something a little bit more complex, like I say, go for the Hvede IPA or the Sort Hvede or one of the other beers, but it's really cool to try the original beer that they've done, and this is a nice light sessionable ale, so give it a go. In terms of the mouthfeel, I'd say this one is kind of light to mid-bodied, more on the light side of things for me though. The mouthfeel is really overall quite smooth. There is a little bit of an oily character to this one, and this one is a bit wetter than the other ones. It does feel lighter than the ones I've had before. The carbonation is a little bit more prominent, it's a little bit more kind of prickly, and that helps bring out some of the hoppy characters in this beer. I've noticed there is a little bit more dryness to this one than there is in some of the other ones. But I mean, it is a really nice beer. Sweet malty character, a little bit of hoppy dryness, and a bit of fruity character as well, but it's really nice, and as I say, it's very cool to try one of the original wheat beers, or the original wheat beer I guess, from Indslev Bryggeri over in Denmark. And this, as I say, very cool to find wheat beer breweries appearing outside of Germany. Of course, the classic example is Schneiderweiss Brewery, or Schneider and Sohn Weissbier Brewery I guess they're called, but really nice beer. Give this one a go. As I say, a lot of people with Hefeweizen can be put off by the fact you can only drink one of them, but this is a nice sessionable example of the style, and of course cool to try beers from different countries too. So yeah, as always, I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. If you have tried the beer, let me know your own thoughts on it in the comment section below. I really enjoy these wheat beers, so if you want to try some wheat IPA hybrids or wheat stout hybrids and all these sorts of things, Indslev Bryggeri are one that you definitely want to hit up. So once again, thank you to Mike and Anders for sending me this beer. I hope you guys have enjoyed the review. Until the next time, Slange just now. Do check out all the social media in the description below, and like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. I will catch you soon, and there'll be more Ugly Duck beer reviews to come over the next few weeks. Slange just now, and I'll catch you later. Cheers.